This is a government-wide policy memo. It directs agencies to expand the use of FAR Part 12 commercial buying procedures, improve data reporting on commercial versus non-commercial acquisition, and route larger non-commercial procurement decisions through senior leadership for justification. This policy guidance issued under the OMB Budget and Management Authority is not a new FAR case or it's not a new FAR acquisition circular. When OMB issues a government-wide memorandum, agencies must comply. Agency heads will be asked to report on implementation. Senior procurement executives will be measured on commercial buying percentages increases. Contracting officers will face increased scrutiny when they try to justify non-commercial approaches. Agencies have to establish a process to track and report the dollar value and the percentage of obligations executed under FAR Part 12, commercial procedures basically. So baseline data is due to OMB by June 30th. Quarter updates start around September 30th. OMB will have visibility into which agencies are increasing commercial buying and which aren't. For any planned non-commercial acquisition with an estimated value over $10 million, the contracting officer must prepare a written justification explaining why commercial solutions don't meet the requirement. That justification must review and approved by the agency's senior procurement executive and a senior non-career acquisition official. So a non-career acquisition official is basically a political appointee. So this creates an additional approval level layer. It lengthens the acquisition planning timeline for non-commercial buys, and it puts political oversight into procurement strategy decisions. So agencies must request OMB consultations on complex or high-value non-commercial decisions. OMB reserves the right to escalate concerns to the agency head if it believes a commercial alternative exists, but was not adequately considered. So what does this mean for you? If you sell commercial products or services, this memo strengthens your position. You now have a policy memo you can reference if needed because OMB has directed agencies to expand commercial buying and your solution is commercial. If you sell custom solutions, R&D, or highly tailored services, this memo makes it a little bit harder for you. If you're in government contracting and you constantly feel like you're the last to find out what's going on, I get it. There's a lot of noise out there, not a lot of clarity. That's literally why I built GovCon Ready in 30 on School. Every week, I put out a full acquisition intelligence brief. What changed, what didn't, and what you can actually do about it. We cover regulations, GAO decisions, market signals, opportunities, all of it. Broken down so it actually makes sense. We go live every Tuesday, and you can ask me anything directly. It's free to join. The link's in the bio. If you're not locked out, but you may face more questions, longer approval timelines, and increased justification requirements. Some opportunities you would have won about 2 years ago, but now commercial solutions and the commercial avenue is gaining more precedence. This memo is part of a broader Trump administration acquisition philosophy emphasizing deregulation, commercial solutions, and reduced reliance on government unique requirements. So expect follow-on actions. This is not the end of the changes that are going on in the acquisition world of the government. This commercial push is real. It will affect your pipeline in about 1 or 2 years. So now let's go on to some GAO decisions. So there are 5 GAO decisions that we pulled and I want to talk about this week. So 5 were published between April 9th and the 16th. All of them were denied, just to give you a heads up. I'm going to focus on 2 of them mainly because they provide the best lessons. The first is a DHS U.S. Coast Guard service contract. The reconsideration was denied around April 13th. The protester lost the initial protest and they filed for reconsideration. And like I said, GAO denied that reconsideration. So here's the lesson. Reconsideration is not a second chance to re-argue your case. The standard for reconsideration is narrow. You must demonstrate one of 3 things. So it has to be an error of facts that were, material to the outcome, errors of law that were material to the outcome, or new information not previously available that is material to the outcome. So reconsideration is not a mechanism for saying that we just disagree with how GAO weighed the evidence, and it's not a way to introduce a different legal theory. All right, the standard is deliberate. GAO receives thousands of protests every year. If a protester could simply file for reconsideration every time they lost, the system would collapse. Reconsideration is reserved for genuine errors and newly discovered evidence. Most reconsideration requests are denied, to be honest. The protester in this case argued that GAO misunderstood certain facts or failed to gain significant weight or give significant weight to specific grounds. GAO reviewed the request and determined that none of the argument met the narrow standard, so the case was closed. Your best leverage is going to be before the decision. If you're considering a protest, invest your resources in building a strong initial filing. Specific factual allegations, clear identification of a FAR or statutory violation, evidence of competitive prejudice, and supportive documentation attached to the initial filing. Don't hold evidence. Don't hold back any evidence thinking that you can introduce it later. GAO expects you to present your best case up front. If GAO rules against you, I want you to ask your protest counsel a very specific question. Did GAO get concrete facts wrong, or did GAO apply the wrong legal standard? If the answer is no to both, don't pursue a reconsideration because, or if yeah, if you answer no to both of them, don't pursue a reconsideration because your resources are better spent on the next opportunity. So remember, reconsideration does not restart your clock. Filing a reconsideration request does not give you additional time on file on other grounds or to preserve other protest rights. If you have multiple theories, present all of them in the initial filing at the same time. A reconsideration request typically costs around $10,000 to $25,000 in legal fees. Now that's money that delivers value only if you found a genuine error. And if you're pursuing reconsideration because you're frustrated or hoping GAO will change your mind, then you're wasting your money, and that's a path that'll lead to nowhere. The other four decisions this week were all denied, but the full decision text, it wasn't published yet. They should be available at gao.gov in about 2 to 3 weeks after the decision. So when they are published, I'll review them and provide specific lessons if they contain relevant teaching points. All five decisions this week were denied, like I said earlier. And any single week is too small of a sample size for statistical conclusions, but the pattern is consistent with GAO's historical win rate. Protesters succeed roughly about 15 to 20% of cases that go for a decision, and the majority of protests are denied because either the agency's actions were reasonable, the protester lacked competitive prejudice, or the protest grounds did not demonstrate a FAR violation. So I want you to ask yourself these four questions before you attempt to file a protest, okay? First question is, can I point to a specific FAR provision the agency violated? The next question is, do I have credible evidence supporting my factual allegation? The third one is, can I demonstrate competitive prejudice? And fourth, am I filing within the GAO timeline or requirements? If you cannot answer yes to all four, your protest is likely going to be denied. Protests are expensive. Now an entire protest can cost anywhere between $50,000 to $150,000 for a fully litigated case. They're time consuming. They affect relationships. So you have to use it when you have a genuine legal basis and the contract value justifies the requirement. Don't protest just because you're frustrated and you think that you should have won or because you want to delay the award. Okay. Now let's just talk about the market for a little bit. Everything that we've covered thus far provides a clear message to where government contracting is going. The first one, the main one, is the commerciality push. That's real right now. OMB Memorandum that we talked about earlier was issued to create a real behavioral change in the contracting office at the contracting officer's level. So for contract offices, market research has to emphasize finding commercial solutions. Source selection strategies will favor commercial proposals when evaluation criteria allows it. Requirements development will be scrutinized for unnecessary government unique specifications. So firms with established commercial products, whether it's GAO, GSA schedules, catalog pricing, standard service packaging, that'll benefit, that'll provide a benefit immediately. But firms that rely primarily on cost type contracts, R&D, or government unique solutions, they're going to face challenges. If agencies are under pressure to increase commercial buying, they'll favor procurement paths that demonstrate commercial treatment like GSA, GWACs, and FAR Part 12, FAR Part 12 competitive buys. That's something that you need to be aware of if you're not on a schedule yet. If your current contract is based on a non-commercial item and a commercial alternative exists, getting awarded the follow-on may be less likely because the agency could reframe that requirement. You may face competitors who you haven't seen before. Firms with commercial solutions, different cost structures, just different positioning. Your recompete strategy must include demonstrating how your incumbent solution can be framed as commercial or partnering with a commercial provider. As agencies shift more procurements to FAR Part 12, firms whose proposal teams understand the difference between FAR Part 12 and FAR Part 15 will write better proposals because FAR Part 12 is just different. It has different evaluation approaches, different price reasonableness standards, and different documentation requirements. If your team writes every proposal as if it's a cost reimbursement contract, you'll lose FAR Part 12 competition to firms who tailor their proposal to commercial frameworks. So, train your capture or proposal staff on FAR Part 12. Make sure they understand commercial item definitions, commercial pricing, and how to write technical approaches for commercial service acquisitions. Based on this week's information, here are your priorities for the week. That's the brief for this week. If you found this useful, subscribe. I do this every week. And if you want the full brief, the live session, and the ability to ask me questions directly, come join us inside GovCon Ready in 30 on School. The link is in the description. I'll see you next week.